When the invitation arrived in the mail, it smelled like fake lavender and desperation. A thick ivory envelope with gold foil trim, my name spelled out in overly swirly calligraphy that screamed we're trying too hard. Inside, it read, "Dear Rachel, you are cordially invited to the wedding of Amanda Lee Collins and Carter Jonathan Pierce. Due to venue limitations, this event will be adults only and no plus ones will be permitted. No plus ones. Now normally, I wouldn't care. I've skipped weddings for far less. But this wasn't just any wedding. Amanda is my cousin. Correction, Amanda is my braggy, competitive, and subtly cruel cousin, who spent every family gathering since 1998 finding new ways to make me feel small. The kind of woman who asks if you've finally found a real job yet, while sipping Prosecco she didn't pay for. And no plus ones felt personal. Especially since she knew I was engaged. Oh yes. Engaged. Recently. Blissfully. And not just to anyone. To Daniel. My Daniel. Smart, patient, handsome, and, though I didn't exactly broadcast this to my relatives, co-owner of one of the most exclusive wedding venues in the state. You see where this is going. Amanda had no idea. We'd kept it under wraps for a reason. After a very awkward Christmas when she once drunkenly flirted with him not realizing he was my boyfriend, we decided some things were better left unsaid. So when her wedding invite arrived with that smug, no plus ones, line, I did what any reasonable woman would do. I RSVP'd yes. And kept my mouth shut. But the spite was boiling. My mother, of course, tried to smooth things over. Sweetheart, I'm sure it's just a capacity issue, she whispered over the phone, as if Amanda could hear her through the cord. You know how weddings are. Tight guest lists. Mom, I said. She invited her hairdresser's boyfriend. I saw it on the registry site. There was a pause. Well, maybe she just forgot Daniel was your fiancé? Sure. Forgot. Like Amanda ever forgot anything she could use against me. I showed Daniel the invitation later that night. He read it, blinked, and then laughed so hard he almost spilled his wine. She seriously sent this? He asked. No plus ones? Oh yes. And by the way, she's getting married at the Fairway Garden Pavilion. Daniel raised an eyebrow. The Fairway? Yup. That's when the wheels started turning. You see, Daniel doesn't just work with the Fairway Pavilion. He helped build the damn thing. His family's company owns it. He and his brother renovated it into a premium wedding spot with 2 indoor ballrooms, a lakeside terrace, and a staff that could rival a luxury hotel. Most people wait over a year to book a weekend there. Amanda probably thought she'd pulled some strings through her daddy's golf club. What she didn't know was that her booking had gone through Daniel's brother, Lucas, who's usually hands-off unless it's a big client. Amanda got in because of a cancellation, and Lucas didn't vet her well. Which meant she had no idea who really ran the show behind the scenes. And that's when my little idea turned into a full-blown plan. Oh, I said, sipping my wine. I'm definitely going to this wedding. Alone. And you will be waiting inside. Daniel grinned. I'll wear a name tag, he joked. Or maybe I'll just make an announcement before dinner. We laughed. But deep down, I was already rehearsing the scene in my head. The shocked look on Amanda's face. The gasps. The realization that her high and mighty venue dreams were hanging by a thread, and the thread had my engagement ring on it. But I had to be patient. I had 6 weeks to prepare. 6 weeks to pretend I was just another supportive cousin showing up solo. I had to smile through family texts, bite my tongue during phone calls, and play dumb when Amanda posted sneak peeks of her luxury venue on Instagram, tagging the wrong location like a complete amateur. Meanwhile, Daniel and I were working behind the scenes. You see, being the owner of the venue comes with certain powers. Like who gets priority on setup? Who can delay things by a few hours? Who has access to the emergency lighting system? Who can accidentally schedule a second event in the smaller ballroom next door? Revenge was a dish best served at 72 degrees with floral centerpieces and dimmed chandeliers. And I had a front row seat. So yes, I was going to Amanda's wedding. Alone. And she was going to regret ever underestimating me. Let the show begin. The day of the wedding arrived like a storm cloud dressed in white lace. I pulled up alone, just as requested, in a sleek black car that Daniel had arranged. The driver opened the door for me like I was royalty. He didn't have to say anything. Just nodded like he knew exactly what kind of day this was about to be. As I stepped onto the stone path leading to the fairway pavilion, I couldn't help but smile. Not a big grin. Just the kind of quiet smirk that said, "You wanted a show. Let's begin." The guests were already trickling in, all dressed in pastel silks and designer knockoffs. The kind of people who call Target, Tarjay, and think adding truffle oil to popcorn makes them chefs. I knew most of them from family events. Fake hugs, fake compliments, fake everything. Rachel. You came. Aunt Denise cooed, clutching a mimosa like it owed her money. Wouldn't miss it, I replied sweetly. She leaned in, eyebrows arched. Came alone, huh? I nodded. Per the bride's request. She blinked, clearly unsure if I was being sarcastic or obedient. I didn't clarify. Let them wonder. I made my way inside, past the entry hall, where two enormous arrangements of peonies flanked the doors. Funny. I remembered Amanda saying her budget didn't allow for custom florals. But somehow, here they were. Expensive. Elegant. Just a little too perfect. Because Daniel had upgraded them. Without charging a cent. This wasn't just a wedding anymore. This was theater. And I was sitting front row. The ceremony was set up by the lake, with ivory chairs and an aisle runner that Amanda's dad probably mortgaged a car to afford. As everyone took their seats, Amanda finally emerged from the prep room. And she looked stressed. Not Bridezilla level stressed. Just slightly too aware of every petal placement. Slightly too alert to every server walking by. Like something didn't feel quite right, but she couldn't put her French manicured finger on it. She caught sight of me and smiled. Not kindly. More like she'd just stepped on a bug and wanted to make sure it was dead. Rachel, she said through gritted teeth, so glad you made it. Of course, I replied. It's such a beautiful venue. So, well run. She narrowed her eyes for a second, probably trying to read between the lines. But before she could reply, a staff member approached her to whisper something in her ear. Her smile froze. I didn't know exactly what he said, but I had a few guesses. You see, Daniel had been quietly tweaking things all morning. Not enough to cause chaos. Just delays. The makeup artist arrived late due to a GPS error. The hairstylist's curling iron malfunctioned. The mini champagne bottles for the bridal party mysteriously went missing and had to be replaced last minute. Nothing major. Nothing anyone could prove. But by the time Amanda walked down that aisle, her perfectly timed ceremony was 45 minutes behind schedule. Still, she forced her smile. Said her vows. Kissed Carter like he was a prize she'd won instead of a backup she settled for. And then, we all moved to the reception. That's when things got interesting. The ballroom was stunning, of course. White drapes, hanging lights, gold-rimmed glassware. All courtesy of Daniel's team. Amanda probably thought it was her taste and vision bringing it to life. Cute. She took the mic for her welcome speech and started thanking people. Her parents. Her bridesmaids. The caterers. And a special thanks to the Fairway Pavilion staff, she said, for making my dream wedding come true. Polite applause. Smiles all around. Then the main doors opened again. And in walked Daniel. Tailored navy suit. Hair perfect. Calm, collected, completely unbothered. Amanda froze. Her glass clinked against the mic. Some people turned. A few guests recognized him immediately. He'd been on a few local news stories when the venue first opened. Others just whispered, sensing the tension. Amanda blinked. I thought you weren't. Daniel smiled and walked right up to me. Sorry I'm late, he said. Got held up making sure everything was just right for Amanda. Her mouth dropped open slightly. I turned to the crowd. Everyone, this is my fiancé, Daniel. He owns the venue. Silence. Then a ripple of gasps. Amanda didn't say a word. But her eyes said everything. Panic. Embarrassment. And for the first time in her life, the creeping realization that she wasn't the smartest person in the room. She tried to play queen. But I was the one holding the crown. And the final act was still to come. The air in the ballroom turned thick the second Daniel said the words "he owns the venue." You could practically hear the collective whiplash of Amanda's guests trying to connect the dots. Amanda's mouth stayed open for a full 5 seconds before she composed herself with a choked little laugh, like this was all just some adorable misunderstanding. Oh. I didn't realize, she started. Of course you didn't, I said sweetly, taking a sip of champagne. You were too busy telling people no plus ones. The room chuckled. Lightly at first. Uncomfortably. But people love drama. And they could smell it in the air like smoke before a fire. Daniel kissed my cheek and whispered, "Do I cue the playlist?" Not yet. We were just getting started. Amanda's new husband, Carter, looked like he wanted to crawl into the cake and disappear. I don't blame him. Poor guy had no clue he married someone whose ego couldn't fit in a ballroom with 150 chairs and a chandelier. Still trying to save face, Amanda clinked her glass again. Well. Now that everyone's here, she said too brightly, let's enjoy the dinner, huh? Oh yes. Dinner. I took my seat, strategically placed by the bathrooms, because Amanda was petty enough to assign me that table, not knowing Daniel had already made sure it was one of the only tables with a direct view of the dance floor and the head table. She thought she was isolating me. I was center stage. The servers began rolling out the dishes. Amanda had bragged about this caterer non-stop. Farm to table. 5 stars. Hand-selected microgreens. Daniel had tasted the menu weeks ago. He said it was decent. But I knew he had something better planned. As the plates were served, guests began whispering again. This wasn't the menu Amanda had described on her wedding website. No beet foam appetizer. No raw kale, surprise. Instead, roasted duck with spiced fig glaze. Truffle mashed potatoes. Baked brie with caramelized pear. It was the off-menu upgrade package. Normally reserved for celebrity clients and governors' daughters. Amanda clocked it immediately. Her eyes darted to the kitchen, then to Daniel, then to her planner, who just shrugged helplessly. She stood up mid-bite. Wait, what's going on? She hissed. Daniel walked over calmly. I made a few executive changes. You know, since I technically signed off on everything. Her jaw clenched. You can't just change my wedding menu without asking me. Actually, I can. You wanted that signature experience package, right? I didn't choose that. He smiled. You didn't. But Rachel did. And I trust her taste more. Gasps. Forks paused midair. The music seemed to lower itself out of sheer awkwardness. Amanda looked like she was trying to summon a fireball with her mind. Carter mumbled, "Babe, just sit down. The food's really good." She did, stiffly. But not before shooting me a look like I'd just drop-kicked her veil. The best part? The guests were loving it. Raving, actually. And the more they complimented the service, the food, the playlist, yes, Daniel swapped out her cheesy saxophone dinner tracks for smooth jazz and Motown, the more Amanda visibly shrank in her seat. Then came the toasts. Amanda's maid of honor got up and delivered the usual clichés. They're perfect together. She's been dreaming of this day since we were 6. Blah blah. Then, to everyone's surprise, Carter stood up. He raised his glass and looked directly at me. "And I just want to say," he began, "I had no idea who Rachel was before today. But now that I do, I think Amanda owes you a big thank you." Amanda stiffened. He continued. "You made this wedding flawless. And I think it says a lot about you that you showed up with grace, despite being told not to bring your partner. If Amanda and I can learn one thing from you and Daniel, it's how to work together like real partners." Now the whole room clapped. Amanda looked like she'd just swallowed a diamond ring. I stood, smiled, and raised my glass. "To Amanda," I said. "For reminding me that sometimes exclusion is just a detour to a better entrance." I didn't even need revenge speeches. The toast said it all. By the end of the night, guests were dancing, laughing, and asking me how I knew the owner. Amanda? She barely made it to the cake cutting. She slipped out early, face tight, bouquet forgotten. Me? I stayed until the last song played. And as the lights dimmed, Daniel pulled me close and whispered, "Next time someone tells you not to bring me, just remind them who signs the checks." I laughed. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud. It's first class. With great lighting. And a guest list that knows exactly who runs the show.